Father of Martin Richard. What that family must be going through, what that poor father must be going through, and why, for what. We'll find out. We will find out who was behind these attacks. We always do. I guess I shouldn't say that because we still don't have answers in the Benghazi terror attack that happened in Libya. But we usually find out, and we are pretty good about bringing people to justice once we've identified who perpetrated these attacks. In the meantime, unfortunately, at least one Democratic congressman is raising new questions about, well, politics and whether the sequester, those recent budget changes, is making the investigation more difficult in Boston. And then the House Minority Whip Steny Hoyer followed up by saying the bombings are, quote, proof that those automatic spending changes negatively impacted the intelligence community. Chris Direwalt is our Fox News digital politics editor and host of Power Play on FoxNews.com Live. Now, Chris, forgive me. I need you to do some reporting for us on this because all I have is an update from our Capitol Hill producer who in little bits outlined what Mr. Hoyer said without full quotes. And I'm interested if you can tell us whether you've confirmed exactly what it is Mr. Hoyer said on the subject of the sequester and the Boston terror attack.
Well, I just talked to Chad Pergram, that producer you mentioned, and here's some context about what happened. So last week, the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, was testifying about the budget, and he said these sequestration changes are hampering our national security, hampering our intelligence gathering. They're dangerous, and they're going to cause problems because they're terrible. And then this morning, Xavier Becerra, a Democrat, spoke and said, look, in Boston, they're having all of these problems because of the sequestration. They can't get the police officers. There's not enough money. Children may lose vaccines as they shift money away from programs in Boston to shore up the police. And then Chad asked Steny Hoyer about that and about those comments. And then you saw the quote that Chad passed on there about proof. About what Clapper had talked about and what Becerra had talked about.
And that quote that Chad Pergram, is our Capitol Hill producer, has offered us is Steny Hoyer said that the Boston Marathon incident is, quote, proof of issues with sequester as it comes to the intel community, quote, proof of that if proof is needed. And so he appears to be saying that the sequester has affected the intel community and has played some role, I gather, in the Boston terror attack, according to Mr. Hoyer. I mean, you know, I don't know. Maybe that is the case. Maybe they can prove that to us in the days to come, Chris. I don't know. But is today the day for that over such a controversial issue? And by the way, the reason we had the sequester is because our lawmakers on both sides of the aisle passed it. I haven't looked up how Steny Hoyer voted. But this is a bipartisan doing that the president signed into law. And is this any time to be pointing the fingers on something like that?
Well, imagine, if you will, if today John Boehner or Eric Cantor on the Republican side had come out and said, you have to wonder whether President Obama's policies in Syria or Iraq or the Middle East haven't left us more vulnerable to this, or you would have to wonder about his policies in Guantanamo or his drone strikes. If they had said anything like that, they would rightly be roundly criticized for yapping before they had all the facts in hand and talking about something in a moment that's very raw, still grieving, and people are not working with the right tools. And you saw President Obama play it cool, play it collected, do it a very commander-in-chiefly job of being in command and in control today, not letting things get spun up. Unfortunately, what you see here is that Congress is currently obsessed with spending, and Democrats are currently obsessed with the idea of these automatic reductions to automatic increases in federal outlays, and could not apparently resist linking the two. And one other thing, if I may, which is that for Mr. Clapper, if the president really thought, if the belief in the administration really was that this was jeopardizing our national security and we were missing intelligence that might protect us from something like this incident in Boston, the president had the wherewithal not to sign this, and he had the wherewithal as commander-in-chief not to do this. So if there are fingers being pointed here, eventually they start pointing up the other way on Pennsylvania Avenue to the president.
I mean, we've talked about this before, about how it's like there's no waiting period anymore. There's no mourning period. There used to be, you know, I mean, the president said yesterday that today there are no Democrats, there are no Republicans, we're just Americans. And then, you know, here we are not 24 hours later, back to politics and sequester debates. All right, Chris, thank you.